Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome inside the latest edition of Across the Cavs. Zach Weiss with you, as always, excited today to be talking with Chasity Melvin, one of the early alums of the famed Cleveland Rockers, who had a brief but storied existence as the WNBA team in Cleveland. She's now an assistant with UNC Asheville, as well as doing player development. Chasity Melvin, a pleasure to have you on. Excited to reminisce about your career and look at a potential return as the Rockers trademark was just filed for once again.
Oh yeah, I was so excited to see that. So excited. I had so many people reach out to me via social media, text, like the Rockets are coming back. And yeah, that would be like a dream come true if the Rockets came back and I could be a part of that front office or the coaching staff. That would be awesome.
And so we dive back a little bit to your earlier career. You had a very successful college career with NC State, and the WNBA did not form until you had already been there. So when you started, there was no big professional women's basketball league in America. And so when the league was formed, did you have immediate aspirations to go play in it?
I have a very unique story. I was from a small town, and I actually, at 11 years old, told my mother I was going to play professional basketball. It was actually the first day I had picked up a basketball at school, middle school. Actually elementary. And I fell in love with the game. And I told my mom, like all kids do when they figure out, whether it's they want to be Superman or whatever, these naive dreams. I was like, I'm going to be a professional basketball player. Like, I'm going to. And she was like, honey, they don't have professional women's basketball teams. You're going to have to do something else. And I said, you know what? They will by the time I grow up. And so for me, it became a dream at 11 years old. And so fortunately for me at NC State, one of the seniors that I had played with graduated and was one of the first to go into the WNBA. And also, I had two professional leagues before I graduated, and a lot of people don't talk about it because the ABL folded. So that was the American Basketball League and the WNBA. And so when I was a senior, I got to choose between two professional women's basketball leagues. So how crazy is that?
Was that a difficult choice for you?
It was a very difficult choice because all the players in the ABL were players I had looked up to. Dawn Staley was in the ABL at that time, Katie Smith, all of the Yolanda Griffith, all of the players that were kind of like in my league or players that I looked up to. And I want to go there and play against them. And so it was really hard. And then the ABL played during the regular basketball season, like the winter season, along with all the other seasons. The WNBA was only in the summer. And I had never wanted to go overseas. I never wanted to leave my family. That was another reason I stayed in North Carolina to play basketball. I was either UNC or NC State, and I got recruited all over. So I never saw myself going overseas. So it was really tough, but I ended up choosing the ABL.
And then how did that kind of start for you before you went on to be the 11th pick by the Rockers in '99?
Yeah, it was really surreal because I went into the ABL and obviously Dawn was supposed to be on my team and she actually had gone over to the WNBA. So they were actually pulling those players over to the WNBA. And the ABL folded in the month of December. It just crashed. They told everybody to go home. I had no more paychecks. I had moved to Philadelphia because I was playing for the Philadelphia Rage. It was very a sad time, depressing time, and I didn't know what was going to happen. It's kind of like that. Listen, I had this big dream. I reached it, and then the dream was snatched away from me. And I was, 20, 21 years old? So it was devastating, and I didn't know what was going to happen after that. Fortunately for me, I went overseas to Spain. I played over there, won my first championship overseas. Although I didn't want to go overseas, I ended up going over there because I had so much love for the game. And I was drafted by the Cleveland Rockers. I didn't watch the draft. I went to play basketball the day of the draft because I had so much anxiety and my family and everyone was dependent on me.
And when you did find out it was the Rockers, it was going to be in Cleveland, what did you think about that?
Oh, my family was ecstatic. For me, it was just like any competitive basketball player. I get to live my dream. I get to keep competing and playing basketball. So for me, I felt truly blessed and honored, and I was so appreciative. It wasn't something I was going to take for granted.
And so in the Rockers' brief existence, they were only around for 7 seasons in their first go around before folding in 03. You being there from the time you got there until then. You're one of only 3 All-Stars they had. You and Merlakia Jones went in together when you were All-Stars. So how special was it to represent and do it with one of your Rockers teammates at the All-Star game?
It was one of the best experiences of my life, and I actually went down to Disney World. So that was my first time going to Disney World. I would have loved to go on after winning a championship, but All Star was my championship. And I guess just being it's really being a part of the Cleveland Rockers. We had a great fan base. Right around that time, we were coming into our own. We were a playoff team, and we were really, really striving to win a championship for the city of Cleveland because they hadn't had it in basketball. So we were really determined. And for us, that was just like a chef's kiss for Malaki and I to become all-stars. And then that also gave more publicity to the Cleveland Rockers and our team overall. So it was just overall a team thing and an organization thing.
And you spent 5 seasons with the Rockers, and you played in 157 games. So, what was your overall experience there? And had you had any memories of your life in Cleveland before you had gotten drafted and played with them?
No, before I got drafted, I hadn't really traveled much other than the NC State basketball schedule, and obviously Coach K. Yao, rest in peace, had tried to get our team to travel and get us to experience some really good things. But I haven't been out to the Midwest other than when we were in Ohio and we beat UConn to make it to the Final Four in my senior season. But other than that, I didn't really know much about the Midwest. But my family loved Cleveland. They would drive from North Carolina all the way to Cleveland, spend time there, watch the games. And obviously we were a little naive. We loved Cleveland because we were there during the summer. So we enjoyed it. But when I went back in the winter, I was like, oh, this is a different city. But still, I have so much love for Cleveland. All my fans still reach out to me. Social media has been really great with that. Cleveland rocks. When I went back for NBA All-Star, it was just like reliving everything, like being back in Cleveland and the good times and all the great memories, all the great eating places, all the great restaurants, the restaurants, excuse me. We just had a blast. And for us, it was just like where we realized our dream. So it was really special to, especially those WNBA teams that were very, very early on. If you were a part of those teams, if you were a few players that were able to get drafted, were able to make a roster, that was like a dream being fulfilled for a lot of the players.
And so, overall, 5 years in Cleveland. Is it still a city? Obviously, you went back for All-Stars. Is it a place you still go back to? Is it a city you root for in all the other sports? Or do your childhood favorite teams kind of take precedence over the Cleveland teams in today's day and age?
Oh no, I love the Cleveland Browns. I love the Cleveland Indians. I'm such a sports fan. Cleveland will always be dear to my heart. I can say that for most of the players there. We have such fond memories. We were welcomed. I know the veterans and OGs get a lot of negative feedback from the new fans, like, oh, we're jealous of the WNBA players. They're getting all this exposure. But people just, if you weren't in Cleveland, we had tons of fans. We were welcomed. We went to the Cleveland Indians games. We were singing, we were singing along with the fans. There was a lot of publicity and a lot of support media-wise for us. It wasn't something that we weren't known to. Like we were able to go to different concerts that came to the arena. The owner at the time, Mr. Gunn, was unbelievable to us. He was very supportive. I mean, things just changed for us when Cleveland decided to, draft the king. And I get it, it took over everything, and they really wanted to focus on the Cavs. But before that, we were welcome, within the Browns organizations across the board. Cleveland sports is just a different type of community, and the fan support was there. So we were really bummed. I believe a lot of the fans were really bummed when the team folded. But they've always had a special place in my heart. I was only one of the rare ones back in North Carolina wearing Cleveland Browns gear and stuff. And people are like, what is wrong with you? But when you have that fan support from Cleveland, it's something that you kind of never let go of.
And so from Cleveland, you spend your 5 years there, then you go spend some time in Washington, then Chicago, and then you come back to Washington, a number of trips to the playoffs, with the Mystics. Then you ended up, you still spend some time with now. Who are some of your favorite teammates from those days? And how do you remember them maybe being different from your time playing in Cleveland?
Some of my favorite teammates. Wow, I gotta play so. I mean, everybody's gonna be calling me like, "I wasn't your favorite teammate." I would just have to say, I just want to point out that I had a great relationship with Mary Andrade, who's now coaching, one of the assistant coaches for the Toronto Raptors. We stayed really close because we wanted to coach and stay around basketball. Me kind of, I wanted to be around the media and coaching. I was able, afforded opportunity, both of us to be in the NBA assistant coaches program. And then Helen Darling, because we came in together. So we were all like kind of drafted together. We were the babies on the team. And then Urusha Brown was obviously our vet at the time. So we've all stayed connected. But I would say Mary Andrade we've probably had the closest relationship because we're still in this journey of, okay, are we going to be coaches? Are we going to be GMs? What do we want to do on the pro level? And so we still have a really great connection. But I've had so many great players that I've played with throughout my career.
And kind of keeping it on that pro level, what are your thoughts on Unrivaled thus far? We just finished the one-on-one tournaments on Afisa Collier, bringing home Aaliyah Edwards, stunning Brianna Stewart in a shutout, and then running it all the way to the final. Do you like Unrivaled, and do you think that the one-on-one tournament could translate to other professional basketball leagues, both men and women's?
I love Unrivaled. Shout out to Nafisa Collar and Stewie for starting that league and having the vision to create that. I enjoy the one-on-one. A lot of people were asking me about Skylar Diggins Smith. They were like, "Oh, she was so serious in her one-on-ones." And I've seen Skylar carry when I had the opportunity to be assistant with Phoenix. Like I've seen her carry Phoenix Mercury on her back throughout a playoff game. So she doesn't play around when we step on the court. And I think she's a great representative, not only her, but Nafisa Collar and all the other players of like, we understand that basketball just wasn't around for us. So we don't take it for granted when we step on the court. We're going to compete. We don't have the big egos, maybe, and I won't say just NBA players, but the men have always had professional leagues. They've always had opportunities. And so I commend all the WNBA players for always going out competing and having that drive, because it's something that you shouldn't take for granted, because the league hasn't been around. The support that we now see for every teams and for every pro league that's come around hasn't always been there. So I love it. I love the one-on-one competition. I would love to see it in the NBA, love to see it in college. I was kind of the one-on-one player that had a best of three because I hated losing. So even a best of three, I enjoyed that. So it was really good. And you know what? Big girl basketball, Unrivaled showed in one-on-one that when big girls get an opportunity to dribble 8-9 times one-on-one, that we can score too. So I love that element. I love that the WNBA still utilizes their bigs. And I think that's kind of something that's lost amongst the new NBA game and how it's evolved.
And let's just stick to the hypothetical. And obviously, it's the first year of Unrivaled, and it's going to create a lot of possibilities for more similar leagues to maybe eventually spawn, with this being the blueprint. The original Big Three was essentially players you missed watching get out here. They play a little 3-on-3 for those that missed them. If, let's say, the W decided to do something similar where you and a number of these retired greats can come out and play, is that something you would do? And do you think that you'd be ready if you had a couple months to compete in a league like that and help lead a team to an inaugural championship?
I think it would be a fun concept or idea for WNBA All-Star. I do believe a lot of us are still in shape. Like LeBron James was playing at 40, and people think that's kind of like an anomaly. But myself, even some of the younger players, as Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, we played overseas for years with women who played well up until they were 45. I was in Russia playing in Italy. The vets on my team were like 42, 44 playing basketball. So it's not something we can do. I would say, hey, let's have 8-minute quarters. But for limited quarters, 3-on-3, I think it would be fun. I get out there and play with some of my players, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that move looks so good," and I'm thinking like, that was so slow. Definitely don't have that. But I think it'll be a really great concept for like maybe WNBA All-Star event. Because there's so many, like I can't tell you, and I know I'm not the only former player, of people reaching out on social media like, you really inspired me. They were really big fans, and now they're grown. They were kids when we were playing, and now they're grown and they have their own businesses. But we still really impacted them when we played in the WNBA. So I think that would be a great way to bridge some of the fans that were younger to all the new fan support now, and give homage to the players that did the pioneers of the league that started and helped create the league. So I think that would be fun.
And it seems a lot of the popularity has really come these last couple of years. This isn't all of it. I was talking with Brendan Glasheen last week, who's doing all the Unrivaled games. He does W commentaries with the G League. He's pretty much everywhere. He was talking about, so I wanted to talk about the Caitlin Clark thing and about how, her rivalry with Angel Reese combined with their individual abilities. One is a big to dominate the glass like you don't see that much in the modern game. And Caitlin Clark, who handles the ball like you've seen very few women's players be able to constantly pull from 30, run off screens, just because that hasn't generally been the popular style of play. So what are your thoughts kind of on that first season with the Fever? And then also just it's been such a hot topic even in the offseason, the discourse around her season and about how she and Angel Reese have been received for the respective play, just based on all the factors that have kind of been floating around.
Okay, Zach, help me out. Okay, what's the first question? Because there were a lot of questions in there.
Sorry, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Sure. So the thoughts on both Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese's season and about the discourse around their play, what it's meant to leak, how it's kind of driven it. I know it's still a lot. It's been a lot to even follow, just because so many people have had so many thoughts on the popularity, the rivalry, the unnecessary hating kind of on both of them. Even though both of them have kind of served to up their game and elevate the attention now that there's platforms to watch the games the same way we watch NBA games.
First, I want to just talk about the evolution of the women's basketball game. And I think there's just a mild disconnect between, the new fan support and fans that have watched the league and players like I myself who looked up to the Dawn Staleys and the Teresa Edwards. And we've seen all the great players. We've seen them play at the highest levels. Even the old school Nancy Lieberman Kleins, the Ann Donovans, who were one of the great bigs. So we've always known the talent was there. And I believe like people kind of said, oh, these newer guards or the Diana Taurasi's and people aren't giving Caitlin Clark a chance because they could never do that type of stuff on the court. And there were many reasons of why. I would say like Diana Taurasi's basically done the same thing as Cece, but the evolution of the coaching has changed. There was no way back in the day Diana Taurasi or Sue Bird could come across and shoot right at half court. Now, did they have the ability? I've seen Diana Taurasi in practice. She can shoot the basketball from anywhere on the court. She can launch it. But that, the evolution of coaching was, okay, hey, guards, you need 1 or 2 dribbles, make a move. It wasn't the over dribbling. It wasn't a lot of ISO basketball. And that was just kind of the old school coaching. But the coaching had to evolve with some of these new players. And so give a lot of credit to Cece. I mean, I think she probably had some battles with her coach at Iowa about coming across and launching, and give a lot of credit to her coach of being able to change and evolve and allowing players to do that. Because as a big, obviously I could play a lot like Stewie and Nafisa back in the day, and they were like, Chad, the point guard was in your face. Give me the ball. You're not bringing the ball up the court. Like, that's just not what bigs did. But we grew up playing with the men, all women, all shapes and sizes. We had to play with guys because there weren't a huge amount of girls playing. So if you couldn't handle the basketball, if you couldn't shoot, then you weren't going to be on the court. So we had all those skill sets, but then once it became a part of a team, then you were confined into your role. You're a 5. You play with your back to the basket. There were very few stretch forwards who were allowed to shoot threes, who were allowed to dribble the basketball up the court. So a lot of the new fans, they don't know that. And a lot of the players that supported us and when we played, we knew we had these skill sets. So we love it. We love the evolution of the game. It's just we don't have those old school NBA history or the archives where NBA showed the older players back in the day really playing. You don't see those clips. And so it's not like we're hating. It's just like, hey, we love it. We love seeing Cece and them play and shoot from half court. And not only her, Sabrina, Lexi Brown from LA coming across now because it's evolved. Coaches aren't like snatching you off the court if you're launching from half court or if you're making these multiple dribble moves. So the evolution of coaching has changed in the NBA and in the WNBA, and now it leads back to high school. So you love that for Cece and these new players who have the talent and the skill set to do all those things and to be showcased on a national level.
And it was
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
only in 2012 where Andrew Bynum was getting pulled off the court for taking that 1-3 with 18 on the shot clock at the top of the key.
Yeah.
In LA.
Yeah,
It's
like people, and so it's not like players are hating. We're just like, hey, like we could do those things. Like it's not anything new for us. It's not like we need to be like, oh my gosh, this player is so, it's just like we knew we had those abilities. Like even the Diana Taurasi's will tell you, like Gino was on them, like, you're dribbling too much. What are you doing? Getting in their head. But so it is what it is. But to move on to the next question, just the evolution of the rivalry between CC and Angel. Love it for college sports. It's been around. The Shamika Holdsclaws, Tennessee and UConn. There's always been rivals in women's basketball going to the Final Four. But like I said, it didn't have a connection with all the fans really watching. We didn't have the media exposure. But the biggest thing that really highlighted and elevated Angel Reese and Cece was the NIL. It was the NIL. Not only that, it's the transfer rule, the new rule for transfer. Kids could transfer from team to team. Back in the day, you were pretty much stuck. Teams could be dominant because players did not want to transfer, and you have to sit out a year. And then there were other transfer rules. You couldn't transfer within the conference. So if you were in the ACC, you couldn't transfer to another ACC school. You had to leave the conference. So that really helped women's basketball because now players, friends, they could talk to each other. Hey, I want to go to Maryland next year. You want to join me? Or I want to go to NC State. We can partner up and play together and be dominant together. And who knows, if Angel Reese had never left Maryland, what would have happened? She couldn't have immediately played. So I love the new transfer rule for college. I mean, it has its quirks, it has its issues, but I also love the NIL. I mean, Angel Reese getting sponsorships in college. Just think about if Diana Taurasi would have had NIL, Shamika Holdsclaw. When I was at NC State, if I would have had NIL, if I was on commercials and making money, if I was on a State Farm commercial where everyone outside of North Carolina could have seen me, it would have just done volumes for, women's basketball, not only myself, my personal brand, but for NC State women's basketball. So I think just NIL and them being able to have those sponsorships with Nike early on, respective sneaker deals, being out in the public, it just highlighted everything to bring on those new fans. So, I mean, it's great. The rivalry was great. But at the end of the day, Angel Reese has a NCAA championship and CC doesn't. But I love what Indiana Fever has done with the draft. And they've given her a lot of help. So Indiana Fever got to watch them this summer. CC might be on her way.
And it's only a matter of time until the rivalry takes the next step. We got Angel Reese's puff. Soon you'll have Clark-Spar going to Caitlin Clark-Spars, right? So that's that next step where they both just get out there. The exposure has been fantastic. And considering her slow start to then, even in a small league that at the time only had 12 teams, right? Getting her team all the way to the playoffs when they were coming off having the worst record. And for Chicago, just had to deal with a bunch of injuries. It's an adjustment, going from college to the pros. Not everybody's great at everything. Obviously, she gets a lot of attention for her struggles at times to finish inside, but she's still grabbing the rebounds. They're still getting points. I think at the end of the day, you look at both players, you probably wish both of them, even with what they do, could be a little more efficient field goal percentage-wise. But if that's the only knock you can find, then I think that they're going to set the stage. And then you got Paige coming in next year. You're going to have Juju in 2 more years once she's played her career out. And then obviously you're going to have so many other talents that are going to come in. And now you got new teams. You're going to have 15 teams by the start of the 26 season. And we're going to get to it in just a second. Cleveland was one of 5 teams with a trademark filed a couple of weeks ago. So women's basketball is definitely on the rise. And I think it's great, right, Chasity? Because finally, for the first time, we can genuinely have quality year-round basketball that everybody is privy to, not just the basketball diehards.
No, I love it. I mean, even the Charlotte Sting here in North Carolina. I'm excited for the Charlotte Sting to come back. And I was born and raised in North Carolina. Fell in love with Dawn and Andrea Stinson, Rhonda Mapp, who to a few former Wolfpackers who played for the Charlotte Sting when they were here. So I'm super excited for the evolution of the game. Social media, I mean, I think I came in on the tail end of it at the end of my career, but the harshness and the criticism Angel Reese gets is somewhat, it's just really, it's really kind of funny to me, and I love the way she handles it. I love the way that she's taking advantage of all her opportunities. Even with Cece, like you said, I don't think she got as much backlash, but she's getting 10 assists, but she's also getting what, 9, 10, almost 9, 8 turnovers a game.
Yeah.
And people kind of glaze over that. But that's kind of like, I kind of equate it to Angel's, field goal percentage. At the same time, like, obviously you aren't going to be a perfect player as a rookie, but what they've done and how they led their teams to the playoffs in spite of should be recognized. And that's all. And also their rookie play. Like, back in the day when we came in as a rookie, we had to fight for our spot. No one was giving us 40 minutes a game. And that's, again, the evolution of coaching in the pros. Like, rookies coming into the WNBA and playing 38, 40 minutes and still having those, like, minuses on the stat sheet. Like, you're not going to have 3 turnovers and stay in the game back in the day when I was playing, or you're not going to be missing shots and staying in the game and, being able to, or having the opportunity to really pad your stats as a rookie. And I'm not saying they should have been on the court. I'm just saying that goes back to the evolution of coaching, how the game has changed. When you get rookies with that kind of star-studdedness or the publicity, they have to be on the court. I mean, it's the pros. They have to be on the court. And I just say to my counterparts, because I have like the NBA coached in the G League, their rookies come in the game, and other than Bronny, no one's talking about their stats. But you constantly have so many men and so many media outlets like just going in on Angel Reese, who wasn't even supposed to be drafted that high. GMs weren't high on her. And so it's just the women thing, I guess, because you get all these rookies in the NBA, they're playing terrible basketball. They have bad field goal percentages, and they're making quadruple the money as Angel Reese and Cece, but Angel Reese and Cece are the ones that people are talking about. But it's a good and a bad thing because it brings more eyes on the league. But I love how they handle themselves as rookies. I love how they handle themselves in college. And they have to get the nod, both Cece, Caitlin Clark, both Angel Reese, for how what I've said to many people is there was a huge disconnect between NCAA women's basketball and the WNBA. It was so far apart. Like, when I graduated from college, when the greats from UConn graduated from college, the fans just stayed with the Huskies. They didn't kind of transfer over to like, hey, we want to keep following them in the W. And Cece and Angel Reese were able to bridge the gap where the NCAA fans were like, hey, we got to follow these two. Like, we want to keep watching them. And so now they have somewhat, for the most part, other than any other 2 players, bridged the gap between NCAA women's basketball fans and WNBA fans. And the exposure has exploded because of that.
I mean, last question for you, Chasity, before we kind of slide back to the Rockers and wrap it up. I personally, long time watcher of basketball, all levels of the game. And I'll get your thoughts on this right after. To me, the biggest issue, of course, and how people perceive is that a lot of the people making these comments might be watching a quarter, they might be watching a clip, because we are in the highlight era. You talk about the social media era, and they may just watch a 20-second clip of Angel Reese missing 5 layups and then scoring. They might watch 3 bad Caitlin Clark passes and say, "Oh wow, yeah, you put me on the court, I won't turn the ball over." So, do you think that it's almost, while the popularity is growing, it's also hazardous that it's happening in the social media era, so everyone can kind of just nitpick and not, because if they're watching the game, they probably see the ability they have and not just one good player, one bad play, which is what it seems garnered the most views in 2025.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, what is it? We're the microwave generation now. You just want to see clips. Everybody has a podcast, and then you only see that highlight. I mean, people will clip something I say from talking with you now, Zach, and everybody's going in like, look what she said about CC. No one's gonna watch this entire podcast and maybe get the full, gist of what I was trying to say. And so, I mean, that's why I said, like, even the kids I coach in college, like, they have a hard time with, social media. I mean, obviously, right now at UNC Asheville, we aren't having the best season. And it's hard with social media and people looking just, to critique and only see the negative, like the passion that CC and both Angel play with. is just a true representative of women's basketball across the board. And even that's talked about. It's talked about Cece and like how she is on the court and talking to the refs. But then I've been watching the NBA forever, and we've been sending the Draymonds or my old school guy Rasheed Wallace. Like there's such a double standard for women and how we react and how we play with that passion on the court. And I love it because that is so representative of all the players in the WNBA. We fight, we compete, we're appreciative of our opportunities, and we truly love this game. And not only do we love the game, but we can play it. And I think everyone's, got to get on board with that. But yeah, they just kind of hone in on the highlights, because people, and I believe Lisa Leslie said this, the tenacity in which Angel Reese rebounds the basketball is something that is just an anomaly. Like you're just not going to find pros that go after the ball like that. She has a niche, and I don't think we give her enough credit for that. And the same way we give credit for Cece dropping that dime, full court, like it's beautiful, it's amazing, and we really highlight that, but we kind of downplay the aggressiveness and the tenacity that Angel Reese has on the rebounding end, because who else is doing that? So I think they're equal. I think they're equal in their talent, their skill sets. And that's what I think most pros don't understand. I think this is lost in the NBA is like, hey, you're in the NBA, you're in the WNBA because you're great in a certain skill set or talent. And if younger players and younger pros would find their true niche and just really go at it hard and really try to showcase that instead of trying to emulate just like, oh, well, he's shooting threes or she's shooting threes, I'm going to be a three-point shooter. Like find your own niche and really, really, really be good at it. And so that's what I love about CC and Angel and all the rookies that are coming in. And then the current WNBA players is bringing exposure to what they can do, because we have some really, really talented players in the league. Like I said, people were watching Skylar Diggins-Smith in one-on-one, and they were just amazed. And then you see Aaliyah Edwards coming into the finals with Nafisa Collar, and they're like, oh, I didn't know she could do that. So that's what I'm saying. All the old school players, we already know, like we're ballers, we can play. But yeah, some people have extraordinary talents, and they should be showcased, and they should be getting all the attention and everything that comes with it. And I love it. I love both of these rookies eating it up and promoting the league and doing what they want to do.
It's too bad we couldn't get Jewel Lloyd into that one-on. Now she was out with an injury,
Oh,
or Alyssa Thomas. Alyssa Thomas in there could have low posted anybody into the ground.
Oh, right. You're right. Yeah, it was great. It was great. And I love those leagues, the Unrivaled. And we didn't mention AU Sports, so Athletes Unlimited. I was able to coach with Athletes Unlimited last year, and that's 5-on-5. And they have a unique point system within AU. And I think people should check that out. That's 5-on-5. That also showcases a lot of the players, some of the rookies that have been drafted in the WNBA that don't get a lot of minutes in the game. And now they're playing in AAU this summer, playing and getting minutes. And you see Maddie Segrist, place where Dallas Wings is killing right now. And so you see different players and you're like, oh, wow, these players can really play. But like you said, we need more teams. Rosters are small, so everybody can't play. Everybody can't get 20 minutes. But best believe those players on the end of the bench can play. So I'm excited for all those leagues, because back in the day, we had to go overseas to continue playing. So we were kind of out of sight, out of mind, but I do love the experiences. I got to experience different cultures with that. But I would have loved to have an Unrivaled or AU during my pro career. I would love to be in Miami playing back in the day after my WNBA season. So I'm excited. I'm excited for all the opportunities that these young players have, and I hope they continue to understand that it's something to be appreciated and not taken for granted, because those teams that folded, now, the Detroit wanting to bring their team back, and Charlotte, those teams actually folded. And there were players who lost not only their dream, but lost their opportunity to play professional basketball. And so we felt that, we lived that. And so I hope the WNBA players continue to really uplift this game and give it the respect it deserves. And they have been. And I love and enjoy watching them play.
Kind of wrapping up, you talk about losing the opportunity. So now, hopefully, with the news of the trademark, and teams included Charlotte, Miami, Houston, Cleveland, potentially making a comeback. It's been 22 years now without the Rockets. Got to go back to that 03 season, as we mentioned earlier. Is that something where, if it comes to be, you're immediately saying, I'm buying season tickets, I'm getting involved, I will once again be a part of the Rockers as I was for 5 seasons during their first go round?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I definitely would love to be a part of the WNBA, the pro side of the game. I feel like that's where my expertise are. That's where I have a keen knowledge for like just player development with the pros, because I've been in it for a long time as a player. I had the opportunity to coach in the WNBA. Obviously, it's pro sports. You're in, you're out. As the coaches get fired, staffs get replaced. And I would love an opportunity to be part of the front office. So I'm just, my journey is unique. I've been on both sides of the game. I'm back in college now with player development. I'm enjoying that. But yeah, I would love to be a part of one of those new franchises. And obviously Cleveland's dear to my heart. Charlotte Sting would be dear to my heart because I'm born and raised here in North Carolina. So yeah, who knows? We'll see what the future holds. And I'll just continue to, be a part of the evolution of basketball, keep learning wherever I am and whatever opportunity, and continue networking and developing relationships with those that are a part of the league.
Yeah, very much excited, for what's to come. Chasity, thank you for coming on. Great talking about the evolution of women's basketball, your time with the Rockers, and excited to see what comes next for you. And, for the W, we'll have 15 teams at the start of 26. And hopefully in the next few years beyond, you get up to 20 and can really start providing more avenues for players to play professionally in the country, in that league.
Yes.
And beyond.
Hey, Cleveland rocks. I love Cleveland. Shout out to all my Cleveland Rockers fans. They were unbelievable when I went back for NBA All-Star. But it's crazy because it was such a long time ago. And for people to still remember you as a player and like how much you impacted their lives or entertained them, like you just don't think about it. So Cleveland rocks. Shout out to all the Cleveland Rockers. And thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you, Chasity. She said it best. Cleveland rocks. See you next time.